to accept or not those recommendations. And based on the data, we have decided, NASA unanimously in our decision makers, to move forward with the current Artemis II Orion capsule and heat shield with a modified entry trajectory. Later on, they'll get into the specifics of how you modify the entry so that you lessen the heat coming back into the Earth's atmosphere. Additionally, we need to complete our updates to the Orion environmental controls and the life support systems that were identified earlier this year. And that's a very important part. The ECOLIS system, the life support system of Artemis II, needs to be checked out. That's a very important goal and accomplishment before we go translunar injection to the moon. And so we are planning for Artemis II to launch in April of 26. And we're going to do all in our power with our commercial partners to launch earlier. After learning from the Artemis II crewed test flight, then we're going to make adjustments that are necessary, and we plan to launch Artemis III, the first landing on the moon in over a half century. Assuming the SpaceX lander is ready, we plan to launch Artemis III in mid-2027. That will be well ahead of the Chinese government's announced intention that they have already publicly stated is 2030. We need to get this test flight right, this Artemis II test flight right, to ensure the success of our return to the moon and then return safely to Earth in order for the rest of the Artemis campaign to proceed. We've made tremendous progress on the Artemis campaign, including establishing the Moon to Mars program, defining strategies and objectives through our regular architecture concept reviews, launching and learning from the first test flight, Artemis I, developing our suits, the space suits that our astronauts will wear on the surface of the moon, and awarding 2 contracts to develop human lander systems. Space is demanding, and we and our industry and international partners need this time to make sure that the Orion capsule is ready to safely deliver our astronauts to deep space and back to Earth. We need our commercial and international partners to double down to meet and improve this schedule. And that's why I personally have met with the company executives, including the CEOs from the following: SpaceX and Blue Origin on their landers, and I've met with them personally. Boeing on the SLS, Lockheed Martin on Orion, and Axiom on the spacesuits. And I have showed up with many of these leaders, sometimes unannounced, to our and their manufacturing and assembly sites. We also routinely engage with our international partners, especially ESA, the European Space Agency, which supplies the European Service Module, including we have on several occasions visited their facilities abroad. And we must have a shared sense of urgency among all these partners, and I think we have that. as I said, the Chinese government has announced their intention to land on 2030. It may be earlier. They're not planning to land humans on the vital portions that we're going to land, the lunar South Pole, and it is vital for us to land on the South Pole so that we do not cede portions of that lunar South Pole to the Chinese. We've made significant progress on the Artemis campaign over the last 4 years. We created the Moon to Mars program. We've commissioned the 2 lunar landing systems, SpaceX Starship and Blue Origin's Blue Moon, to deliver our astronauts to the surface of the moon. We commissioned Axiom Space to develop the next generation of spacesuits. We simulated the international partnerships and agreements for key Artemis elements, including with the UAE for the Gateway airlock module and with Japan to provide a pressurized rover for the lunar surface. We flew Artemis 1 around the moon. Artemis 1 is the first time that we have sent a human-capable spacecraft to the moon since the Apollo days. And we are now, as we speak, stacking the solid rocket boosters, and then comes the Artemis 2 core stage, which is in the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, as we speak. We'll stack that and the launch vehicle stage adapter. All of this is going on for this next step, the crewed flight test. The safety of our astronauts is always first in our decisions. It is our North Star. We do not fly until we are ready. We do not fly until we are confident that we have made the flight as safe as possible for the humans on board.